morning. Good morning. Thank you so much again for tuning in. My name is Coach Claire, and today we are back on our spotlight interview for our Broken but Beautifully Made Women's Empowerment Conference sponsor. And today we have such an amazing guest with us. She has helped so much on making this conference happen, and I am so excited to introduce her to you. Good morning, Miss Alicia. Thank you so
Good
much.
morning.
Thank you, everybody. If you are tuning in now, or if you're watching a replay, please share, like, and follow our guest today. But without further ado, Miss Alicia, why don't you go ahead and tell us a little bit about you?
Oh, Claire, I'm so honored to be here. It feels surreal to be in this interaction with you because I've watched so many of these. And it's just really, it's like I'm pinching myself like, is this really happening? But it's happening and it's amazing. So what an honor. I'm so honored deeply to be a part of what you're doing. It's just so exciting to see the way God is using you and your heart and your passion and your drive to deeply impact the lives of the women that you touch. And so just to play a teeny tiny role in that is like so wonderful. I'm so grateful. So a little bit about me. In my past life, I was a social worker, actually went to school for like 100 years, it felt like, to get my master's degree in social work. And I just really believed in my deep core that was like my whole life was going to be social work, and never dreamed that something else would happen, and loved that work so much. But my son was born almost 9 years ago, and God just totally changed everything with his birth, and just kind of helped me to pick my head up and see that he had some bigger plans for me, and that nothing was going to be wasted from what I had poured my heart into, in terms of social work and getting that degree and, all the things that come with that. And I was in a leadership position. I just really felt like, by the world standard, it seemed like I had arrived, right? Like she's made it. And God was like, nope, I've got other plans. So I launched into the entrepreneurial adventure, not having a clue what I was doing. I don't have entrepreneurial stuff in my family. I have never watched anybody do this before. Neither has my husband. So we took that leap. And so now I'm a homeschool mama. And I kind of stumbled into a design career. I've always had like a hobby kind of passion for interior design. And it accidentally kind of became an Airbnb or short-term rental design and hosting business. So I've been at this now for about 4 years. So it took me a little while to get to the path that God really had for me. There was some growth between the time that I left my real job and launched into entrepreneurship, to where I found this short-term rental design and hosting thing. We're real estate investors as well. So, man, there's so much I could share about every step. I guess my big message in that is just to take heart that each step is crucial, that the journey is really about who you become along the way, not really where you're headed, and that nothing is wasted. Absolutely nothing is wasted. Every single thing that happens along the way has a purpose, and that he's going to use that to get you where you're going. So that's kind of my story in a nutshell. So where we are right now, we just moved out to Estancia, New Mexico from Albuquerque. We own 2 ranches that are basically right next to each other. One has 7 cabins that we're renovating, and one of those is a rental already. It's such a joy to share those beautiful cabins and all that God has planned for that. He's given me little glimpses, and I'm like, oh my goodness, it's going to be so good. And then we moved into a house, a large home on the second ranch. We live in that, and there will be 2 rentals in that. And we're renovating a small historic home on the back of that property. So 80 acres altogether, 7 cabins, three rentals, and a home. And I host one place in Albuquerque. It's called Casita Rojo, and that's actually where the speakers for Claire's event are going to be staying. So that's exciting too. We're real excited to share it with them. And yeah, so does that give? I hope I did. I don't know. How'd I do, Claire?
You did great. You did great. You're probably like, why am I the only one showing now?
You disappeared, but I had hope that you were still there somewhere.
I am still there. It's your moment. So I gotta make sure everybody gets to see your face fully. You know, I love what you said. Who you become along the way matters more than the end of destination, you know, and I feel that so deeply because like yourself, I don't have entrepreneur. I mean, I guess I wouldn't say like I've never seen it because my mother owned little mini grocery stores in Philippines, the way to provide for us. But I never really like paid attention. I hated having to watch the store because I'm like, oh my God, I'm like a teenager and I don't want to have to be in there. So I feel like what you just said matters so much, you know, and because a lot of times the journey on entrepreneurship is never easy. And so now that we're kind of touching base on that, can you tell me a little bit about like some of the struggles that you've had starting up, you know, because a lot of the women and men out there wants to start a business. However, they have this little called fear that they are not going to be successful, you know, or that nobody's going to buy their product. Nobody's going to do that. So tell me a little bit about like your journey of your own struggle and how did you overcome
that? So, you know, I think for me, the beautiful part was that I didn't get a chance to overthink it too much. So, because I can overthink, right? We just think and think and think and think ourselves into a hole. So God, at that time in my life, I really was not prepared for what was coming. And I think he knew that. And in his grace and his love, he's like, I'm just going to give her little teeny tiny breadcrumbs. So she doesn't see the big picture. So she doesn't freak out and run back into the safety of not doing all the things. And so I look back and I'm so grateful that, and you know, let me finish my thought, that he didn't show me the whole picture, that he didn't overwhelm me with every detail that was coming, because I don't know, I'm not sure I would have kept going. And let me explain how I stumbled in. So when I first started my entrepreneurial adventure, I was with a business called, I'm sure everyone's heard of, doTERRA essential oils. That was like my launching pad into doing business for myself. And I call that like the boot camp. Like God put me through business boot camp because, like I said, I had no clue how to build a business, how to keep a business going, how to, connect, networking. All of that stuff was like another planet for me. And so he put me through boot camp, right? And that was never the end goal. He always had this other thing in mind for me, but I had to be obedient with the thing he put before me to get where I was going. So, it was through actually my business coach for the essential oil business. I kind of started telling her, I just feel this nudge to be creative. Like I've always loved designing spaces. I feel this nudge to explore that a little bit more. And she was like, go for it. Do it. Whatever it is, just do it. And truly her heart to say that to me when it was going to take me away from the business that she was coaching me in, right? But her obedience was so precious. So I got a a certification in staging and redesign. So I was supposed to be a real estate stager for homes that were for sale. That was like going to be the thing. And I never, ever did that, not once. I designed my first Airbnb, and that launched me into designing 20 in 18 months and hosting all of them. 18 months, Claire. The acceleration was so intense. And that's why I'm saying God had to kind of like, I hate to use the word trick me, but like lead me to that without me really knowing what was coming, because 20 spaces in 18 months would have totally overwhelmed me. But it was just the faithfulness of one step at a time. And the way he and I grew in that was so beautiful. And I know that I'm living in the harvest of the seeds that were planted in my life at that time. I can promise you that. So you have to do it scared, right? You're not going to see the big picture. Like if it's anything like what I experienced, the big picture would crush you, right? You're not ready for the big picture. And I know even in the season I'm in right now, there's a really big picture for this that I'm not seeing, because it would crush me. My job is to keep my eyes on Jesus and just take one step at a time and be faithful and diligent and pour my whole heart into it and partner with him and see what he's got in mind. I hope that answers your question.
That did. I love that phrase. That'll be your phrase.
Yay.
Like do it afraid, because at the same, like fear is non-existing. It's even in the actual meaning itself. It's like false evidence appearing real,
Yes,
not
yes.
even there yet. It may not even happen,
Yeah.
You're so right about that, about God knows how much we can handle. So you're right. Maybe if he would have given you like the big picture, I'm like thinking about it now to you. I'm like, wow, she hosted a lot in 18 months and not having an experience on that field yet, but look how much you flourished. And look how much like he's blessed you because of your obedience and just showing up anyways and just trusting. I feel like as a entrepreneur, a lot of the things that you have to do is just trust, seek him, and just do it. Because at the end of the day, what was meant for you will be for you.
Yes.
And if it's not supposed to happen, it would not happen, and God gave us so much creative thoughts that was already being planted on you, and that's crazy. That's a lot to host in under 18 months. Wow.
Yes. Yeah. And Claire, I just want to say too that there's no such thing as like an overnight success. Like people might have looked at those 18 months and said, wow, she's like like that just happened. No, there was a long season of like the roots going deep. The roots go deep in darkness, right, Claire? We don't see that on the surface until the day comes that what's been growing under the surface finally breaks through the surface, and it's huge and it's beautiful and it captivates everyone. And they're like, oh my goodness, that happened so fast. No, there was so much growth under the surface happening. And that truly, please don't hear my story and think, it just happened so fast. It never happens fast. It never happens fast. The life I'm living right now is the result of years and years and years of under the surface growing, if that makes sense. So
I love what you said. Like, it's more of an internal, like a lot of things, like I always tell people, like, to be a business owner or to even do ministry or to do anything, there's a lot of inner work and like really getting rooted in Christ and getting rooted in him and trusting him in every bit of the step, even if that means that when God tells you, no, I need you to put it down.
Yes.
Pick it up again.
Yes.
Nope, put it down again. You know what I mean? And like being okay with that and removing yourself from the picture and knowing that you are not you don't own it. You just got granted access to it. You know what I mean? As a way to prosper your life here. And it's so true what you said, that it's like, it's not an overnight success. There's no such thing as an overnight success. You know, there's many times, many tears have been shed, many dark moments of questioning yourself, like, am I even supposed to be doing this? You know, but I feel like those are the calluses that builds you up and pushes you to break from that soil, like you said, you know, like that root, like you have to harden it so hard that like you're able to break off of that. So tell me a little bit about like your business. I know that you kind of touched based on a little bit about it in the beginning, but tell us, like, how did you even just like started it? You know what I mean? Like, did you just like one day, like, well, we're just gonna buy a curtain and we're gonna
Oh, such a good question. Okay, so I was sharing on social media that I was getting this certification in staging and redesign. And when I had the essential oil business, I would open my home up to do oil classes. And people would come through my front door and like their jaw would drop. And I'm like, this is just my house. Like,
house is very pretty though.
And so I started, like, God started to highlight that for me. Like, there's something here. Sorry, my dog is barking.
Okay.
I'm so sorry. This is real life. And our house is so echoey. Okay, my husband's taking care of it. So he highlighted for me, don't miss what's happening here. Like, you have a natural gifting that feels like it's just coming so easy for you, like it's no big deal, but other people are noticing, wow, there's something excellent about what you're doing. And so so once I started getting the certification, I shared on social media, we took pictures of our home, and I said, you know, this is what I've done in my home. I'm really excited to start doing this for other homes and help people sell their homes, or, you know, along those lines. So a high school friend, Claire, I had not heard, and I wouldn't even call him a friend. We were just in drama class together. Like, I didn't even recognize him in his profile picture. I had to like dig way back in his picture history to even see a picture of someone I recognized.
That's funny.
He reached out to me on Facebook and said, he sent me a message. He said, I really think we should be working together. I love what you're doing. I am a real estate investor and I am looking for help with designing spaces and what I thought it was going to be, and I think him too, we both thought it was going to be like, I could stage his real estate flips, so they would sell quicker and better and for higher prices. So we met and had coffee, and it was just an instant. He is very happily married. I'm very happily married. There was nothing weird about it. It was just a business connection, right? And that was like the springboard, because he then found out about the first space that I designed and hosted. He found out about it from a real estate investor friend who was looking for someone to rent it. So we rented it and then subleased it out on Airbnb, which means we just kind of rented it and then set it up as an Airbnb and rented it out. And so it's a beautiful home in downtown Albuquerque, and it has 3 units in it. So I actually designed all 3 and hosted all 3. And that was how it all started. And I just kind of had to figure it out as I went. I had never hosted. I didn't even know what hosting was. I had never done.
I didn't even know what hosting was until I met you.
Yeah. So and you know, another thing, I also didn't like go onto YouTube and search for all the tips about how to do everything well. It really was like, I look back on it now, and it really was the Lord just teaching me, because I didn't even have time to figure out how to host. He just showed me one day at a time, and I had some hard lessons. So I actually now coach people in how to do this so they can avoid the hard lessons that I learned, because that hosting is not for the faint of heart. But my goodness. And real estate investing was not on our radar at all. We were kind of real estate investors we bought a house to flip ourselves that we lived in. We just did it because we loved it. But that was another thing that God was like highlighting for me. There's something here that's just coming naturally to you, that you're naturally drawn to, that I want to show you how that's going to become a big part of your life. So both of them. And so now I really only host spaces that I own now, except for this one house where your beautiful people are going to stay because it's a family member. They own it and I host it for them. But our hearts now are to really find things that other people, like our cabins, a lot of people, they sat on the market for 10 years, Claire. A lot of people walked past them and said, they're too far gone. There's no hope. So we're so passionate about bringing new life and restoration to things that other people say are no good, and then turning them around, bringing new life to them and sharing them, and letting it be an example of what Christ does with us, right?
Chills.
Yeah. Yeah.
That is so true, because when I saw your guys' cabin, like all of the works you guys have done it, like I follow her so much on her story that it's like I'm living vicariously under you. Like now they're stuff. It's so much tender care that is required when it comes to restoration. And just like how you said, just like Christ did for us, we require a lot of care, and a lot of soft touching and caring and making sure like you're clothed properly, and did you put the drywall right, and make sure cold breeze coming in there, you know what I mean? And so it's amazing how you and your husband have just partnered along and tag teamed this, and to see the beautiful outcome of these cabins. And it's not even that far from the city, really. It's really not that far. And to know that it's like a oasis away from like craziness out here, and like you guys have just recently moved there. And I know the reason you guys have moved there is to be closer and to not have to be constantly traveling, which is amazing. I love your house. It's so beautiful. I'm like, Lord, one day we'll go.
Yes.
One day, God.
Oh, he's so good. He's so good. We really want our lives, Claire, to be an example of what's possible when you say ridiculous yeses to God, like ridiculous, outlandish, and everyone's like, what are you doing? And you're just like, I'm being obedient, and this is what he asked me, and I'm going to do it. And just reckless, it's a reckless abandon into obedience, truly. And anything's possible. Anything in the world and outside of the world is possible when we are recklessly obedient. So, yeah.
It's very true. Obedience, it takes a lot. It's not for the faint-hearted, like you said. Because when you stay obedient, you don't question why, when, and how.
Right.
You just do it,
Right.
and I am a firm believer of that. I have in the last years of my walk with Christ, with God, I have learned to stay obedient and not to try to do it my way. Because every time I try to do it my way, for some reason, it just never works.
Right.
It just always goes on like chaos and confusion and all that. And seeing you guys, in order for us to move to this house, like the house we're renting now, I remember telling God, just like how you guys had, I had to tell God, I'm like, I am not moving out of this apartment until you house, God. Like, I am not moving until it's time for you to say, yes, it's time. Yeah. And you make the way, because it's expensive to even rent a home, and having to go from in the ghetto side of Albuquerque, in the war zone area, and to move into a home required so much of me. And like knowing that we're a one income home, I was like, oh God, Lord, how are you? But he was like, I will make a way when it's my time to tell you to go.
Yes.
You have to stay obedient and know that when it's time, you just have to be willing to do it.
Yep.
Because I will provide the rest. You just gotta be willing to do it. And
Yes.
and I thank you for being so obedient, because you are so inspiring. I told my husband, I'm like, we could have a house like that. I told God the next time we're moving here, I was like, we are buying a house. I'm
Yes.
never here, God, until I buy a house. I'm like,
Oh,
we
Claire.
are staying here. And like, I'm serious. Like every time I watch your story, I'm like learning. I'm like, oh, okay, well, that's nice. And then I was telling a lot of like people, like I went to do a wedding this weekend and they were in an Airbnb, because I know someone, my friend who does Airbnb. I'm all filling the drywall. I'm like, this feels hollow. I'm like, well, this is nice interior, but I guarantee you this was not done right. I had them all like, after like I was like, I've seen how this is actually done. So I don't know. I mean, it's nice interior, but I don't know if it was really stuccoed right up in here.
Oh, I love it. Oh, Claire, you're cracking me up.
It's true though, because like your story, like the little things that you shared are like little bits of like sunshine, like what do you call this? Like a medicine of sunshine, for people that are wanting to be homeowners. Like my dream is to own a home. And one day, and like to see you from like the busyness that you and your husband had to go through, and the works that you guys are partnering together, really shows the amount of obedience that you guys have. And so I thank you for just continuously sharing your gifts, your talents, and just like your story, because it's so inspiring to a lot of us, a lot of people who wants to buy a home, and teaching us wisdom. I'm serious. I told my client, I was like, I'm not judging, but I'm just paying attention, because, I be learning. I'm like, I watch. I try to be wise now, because like what you teach is really like, you may not see it, and you may not pay attention, like you may not even know consciously, like what you're showing is like, I didn't know you could buy that at Home Depot. Like, because there's a lot of things that I am not familiar with, and a lot of people that are not familiar with, and to have a space that you're able to share with people is amazing. So now we're talking about sharing.
Yeah.
The top of our interview segment here. How can we support you? How can we find you? And how can we follow you, book your cabins? I know there's a lot of people that can benefit from it. I'm excited because I get to have an opportunity to have just a one-on-one time with my mom. I never get to do that since I was like 16. Girl, it's been ages. And to know that she's traveling here alone by herself, and to know that we're going to have it there at your place, I am beyond ecstatic. So tell us how we can share, how we can support you, and where we can find you.
Oh my goodness. My heart is so full from this. So I probably the best place is what Claire's talking about is on Instagram. So my handle there is at Alicia, ALICIA.ANN.Carter, CARTER. And that's where I share a lot of my stories, kind of what she's talking about behind the scenes and what we're up to. And on my link tree, I have a link tree in my bio there, and you can get to my Airbnb profile where you can see the places that I'm hosting right now. And stay tuned on that, because in the next 6 months, we'll have 6 cabins on that, and potentially 2 or 3 other spaces, all out here on our 80 acres. So things are about to get really spicy, and it's really exciting. I'm so excited about what God is doing, and at a fast pace too. So yeah.
Yay! In 6 months, because how many cabins do you guys have now that's up and running?
We just have one right now.
That's cabin 3, right?
Yeah, that's the one you're going to stay in. But the rest, we have insane progress happening on all the other 6, and then the spaces here on our side of the property. So
That's
yeah.
amazing. Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to post everybody her links on the Facebook comment section, as well as in the YouTube description, so you guys can follow her. I know there's been a lot of people that had the chance to stay there, and great feedback. So I'm telling you guys, you definitely need to check it out. So thank you so much again, Miss Alicia. I do ask one thing from my speakers and my guest here is, if there's one thing that you can leave as a word of encouragement, what would that be that you can tell our audience?
I think I came fresh out of a really powerful session this morning. I'm a part of a group called Kingdom Driven Entrepreneur. And she was talking so much about grace today and what grace really looks like. And I'm going to read you what her definition of grace, the lady that was speaking, because I feel like maybe I was given that nugget to pass on to this group today. So what is grace? It's an awareness of our current spiritual reality. It's not something we put on. It's a lifestyle that we get to live. So I would just encourage you to think today about what does grace look like? And really, truly, God has given us the grace, the empowerment to do every single thing that he's asked us to do. Coach Claire, you have every ounce of grace and empowerment, and every single resource is available to you to do every single thing he's asked you to do. And that goes for all of us. So my nugget would be to really maybe sit with the Lord today and ask, where is the grace for what you're asking me to do? Am I missing something? Can you highlight something for me that would make this load? Because remember, his burden is easy, his yoke is light. So if we're feeling heavily yoked or heavily burdened in the calling, in the entrepreneurial adventure, in whatever it is, parenting, family, friendships, then we've taken on a yoke that's not ours to bear. And there is grace, there is enoughness in him to carry all that he's asked us to carry. And so I think that would be my nugget for today.
Wow, that was convicting.
all in love.
Yeah. No, it was great. I love what you said about like, if it feels heavy, maybe it's not a yoke that you were supposed to bear. And like, I love that. And wow, thank you so much for this empowering session that we had today. And thank you so much for everybody that tuned in. Stay tuned for our next one. She is going to be our videographer for the conference. She's another amazing kingdom entrepreneur, and I can't wait for you guys to meet her. But thank you so much again, Sister Alicia, for coming along and talking with us and giving us a little bit about you and your time and your business. And we are so honored and grateful for you allowing our speakers to stay at your beautiful Airbnb and to host us. So thank you so much again, everybody. And thank you for everyone that is attending. And we look forward to seeing you on December 9 and 10. Get to meet Sister Alicia there. Bye.
Bye.